We pulled this 351 Windsor out of the junkyard with plans to refresh it, rebuild it, and see how much power it makes. We got to tear it down, figure out what we need to replace, so we can do a budget style refresh to make sure we have an engine that's worth building. We're going to take the cylinder heads off, check the bottom end, take all that apart. So by the end of the video, we'll know where we're going, and I'll show you the parts that we're going to be installing on the motor. Last video I left you, we actually took the intake off, looked inside, and took the valve covers off, took the oil pan off, checked a couple main caps, had some copper showing on the motor, a couple obvious wear and tear, but super clean inside. Go ahead and take the cylinder heads off, take the front end of this motor apart, and basically take everything apart, what kind of budget style rebuild we can do on it. Much like we've done here on the channel with the other 302 motors. And we have done a stock bottom end 351 Windsor build, turbo build here on the channel, made about 720 wheel. When it comes to cylinder heads, we got some options with Trick Flow 170s, some old school Windsor Juniors that we've actually rebuilt already, or even a junkyard set of GT40P heads. Regardless of what we pick, we want it to be as budget friendly as possible. Well, let me get my tools out, as I've already got most of this already tore apart from the last video. But our main objective today is to look at some of the bearings, check out some of the rings, and check out the bore, because if it's got a shitty bore, I can't really do a stock piston rebuild. Stock heads, those are an option because I really wanted to do a budget style rebuild with a turbo and slap a turbo on it. But the problem with doing that is these are super restricted. These are E7 heads. These are basically foxbody cylinder heads. Foxbody's got the E7 TE heads, which is basically a truck head. But I'm really leaning towards the, we'll talk about this a little bit later. If we're gonna stay with a budget junkyard style build, I'm really leaning toward, running these P heads. My next step is to check out the bore, so we're gonna get these cylinder heads off as soon as I can. So what I was gonna do, where they just change the stock bolt out one at a time and put the head stud in, I wonder if that actually worked. Hit me up in the comments below if you ever done that before, without actually changing the head gasket. I mean, I know the right answer was changing the head gasket over, but I always wanted to know if that would actually work. So we got all these out, get a chance to actually look at this cylinder. Oh yeah. That doesn't look bad at all. Doesn't feel bad. Looks like this engine was ran pretty good. Definitely could use a good hone. Stock pistons. But nonetheless, block looks like it's in pretty good condition. Let's check the other side. Same thing. Pretty nice little bore. You don't find them like this very often, that's for sure. Don't really have a ridge at all. Wear, obviously, from years of use, but I'm happy about that. Let me get the cam and stuff out and get the crankshaft and the pistons, and then we'll go over everything and the possibilities of what we're gonna do. Again, guys, this is a 94 to 97 style roller block. They only made them 4 years. They came with the cam dog bone retainer and the roller lifters. This actually has a TE camshaft. It's a 422, 448 lift camshaft from the factory. So it's kind of like the foxbody motor, kind of like a split between the foxbody. It's got a very similar camshaft and the same heads. One thing that I was taught is when you take the lifters out, it doesn't really matter what hole they kind of go back in. I wanted to show you that when you go to install lifters, make sure the notch is up. A little notch. See them all? I mean, it really doesn't matter which way you put them, but this is the oil feed hole. I was just always good practice to put them towards the top. Well, this is pretty classic for small block Ford. Engine that's been sitting for a while. We've already sheared off a couple, but we'll probably end up getting them out of the bolts or the bolt holes. So hopefully you don't mess those up too much. It's that junkyard life. So sometimes you got to sacrifice parts just to make sure that you don't have to deal with other garbage later. Kind of sucks that we had to break the timing chain, but it's a lot better than trying to extract out of these. These bolts need a little bit of never sees when you're putting your timing chain cover back in. They definitely get pretty corroded. We tried our due diligence to get it to work correctly, but moving on. At least we don't have to deal with that anymore. Although it would have been super cool just to bolt on a turbo kit or some power and just go with it with a stock bottom end. It's kind of something to be said about going through, at least budget, refreshing some of your block. And this goes for 302 too. We're at the point we're going to take the timing chain off, the camshaft out, and the rest of the bottom end. And you can see right here the Explorer TE cam. See it? TE truck. It's one of the better factory ones. Okay, last leg of the video, getting the oil pump off, rods and the main caps. Like I said, we're going to check these out pretty good. Lay them out here on the table. Something's went through that motor though. Pull these caps off real quick. We just took this one off and something had been through it, but the crankshaft looks in pretty good condition on the rods for sure. And even on this main, enough to where I can just polish it and get away with it. But we're just gonna go ahead and take all these main caps off. Yeah, this one had copper on it, but that's okay. Scroll up. Number 2 looks pretty good. Not a bad motor so far. Number 1 looks really good. Look at that. Probably wouldn't have been a bad runner just right out of the box, but there was some issues. It needed refreshed for sure. And I'm not real sure I want to run those pistons. I'm telling y'all. Pretty sure they're cast pistons. I don't think they're hyper eutectics like I thought they were. Looks like the number 4 and number 5 main caps had some copper on them, but like I said, seems like this crankshaft doesn't really have a lot of groove in it. 3-inch mains. It's a factory crankshaft. Yeah, those bearings look really good too. Look at that. Okay guys, I got the whole thing tore apart, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's in really, really good condition for what it is. It's got a good standard bore that I'm definitely considering making another 387 build out of. Here's the problem that I had. I had thought that possibly the roller motor had the hyper eutectic pistons in it. I'm pretty positive that these are a cast piston, and those don't take boost worth a damn. And why put all that effort and time into ruining another block, possibly with a shitty piston? So we got a couple options that we could do. Naturally, if this has got a standard bore, I'm 100% not boring it. And if we were to build another 387, we'll have a little bit of better luck with a bigger cam, a bigger set of heads, and maybe even running that boost like I talked about. Nonetheless, we got some options. We got some 30 over forged pistons that's been on the channel for a number of years that we could use from here. Got a couple bent rods, but you know, we could always reuse the original factory rods too as well. So let me know in the comments below what you think we should do with this. I mean, we could do a basic rebuild. I gotta kind of think about it for a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of options here on the table. Just do a basic ring rod bearing. It would definitely be applicable here to the channel and relatable. But so isn't building a cheap 387 again. To the point that I told you guys what balancer I bought, what crank I bought, and this is exactly how I balanced it. Anyway, you look at it. If you guys enjoy this sort of content, leave me a thumbs up if you haven't subscribed already. Check out that join button, become a member of the channel, get exclusive content to the channel. We got some merch on Neomustangs.com, got some hats, got some shirts. We even made individual t-shirts for each individual Tremec transmission, including the TKX, the T56, and the OG T5. Go check that out. I appreciate everybody for watching. We'll see you soon in the next video.